So behind me is my Model Y, which I've had for over 2.5 years at this point. I meant to do a 2-year review, but I was busy and there were other more important things. I'm over 50,000 miles now. I think I'm at like 52,000 or so. And I'm about to say goodbye to this car. I'm about to trade it in for the Cybertruck, which is crazy. I don't know, imagine this would happen. Yeah, I ordered it 4 years ago on reveal night, but it was just kind of like, I don't know if I'll actually be able to get that car. Let's just put in the reservation just in case. Actually, I had a live stream at the time. And during the live stream, I was like, nah, I'm not going to reserve it. I can't, get that car. I can't afford it. It's not practical for me, blah, blah, blah. And the chat in that live stream basically just egged me on. They were like, oh, reserve it. I was like, no, I can't. And then I remember Nick started up and he's like, all right, everybody, let's do $100 in super chats. And then Chris will have to reserve a Cybertruck. These guys in the chat did it. Everybody sent $1, $2, $3 and got up to 100. And so I was like, all right, fine. So I did, what they wanted, live on stream. I reserved that Cybertruck, and I'm so glad I did. So thank you to everybody if you were in that live stream. Thank you for that, because today, I don't know, would be weird and different if that didn't happen, but it did. So in this video, I kind of want to talk about this Model Y I've had for over 2.5 years and over 50,000 miles, what I've liked about it, what I haven't liked about it, and kind of saying goodbye to it and moving on to Cybertruck, because while I'm excited, I can't wait to get the Cybertruck. I've always wanted a truck. You can see out where we live. It's useful to me. I will definitely use the bed to haul things. I will help people move if they want. I'm excited about that. But I don't know. Didn't think I'd be getting a truck anytime, because these are the kind of cars I was driving. I have a long commute. I like efficiency. So to continue chatting with you, this is going to be the kind of video it is, just a kind of a chatty video. About 5 years ago, almost exactly to the day, I picked up my Model 3 in Chicago. Back then, it was actually illegal to pick up your Tesla in Michigan. That's since changed, luckily. So now I can pick up my Cybertruck here, and I picked up this Model Y. Actually, I picked up this Model Y in Ohio for the same reason. But those things have changed since then. But I picked that up, and it was just kind of like a dream car. I could not believe I was getting a Model 3. I drove, an old Ford Focus at the time, and it wasn't super old, but it was a few years old at the time. I bought it used, and it was just like dream car. I couldn't believe it. And then all the weirdness with the pandemic happened, and resale values of cars started going insane, and there was this perfect timing where at that point, the YouTube channel was doing okay, and I was like, you know what, I think I am going to end up getting a Cybertruck. And we were thinking it was going to come by like the end of 2021 or something at that point, and my Model Y, was just about to hit 50,000 miles. It was 2 years old, and I was a little worried, to be honest, about warranty stuff. Like, I didn't want to own it out of warranty, even though looking back and knowing what I know now, that was kind of silly, but that's what I thought at the time. The used car prices were going up. Tesla vehicle prices hadn't really started to rise yet. I think they had one price increase at that point, before the craziness of 2022. And so I decided to just go for it. Also, that's when GameStop started exploding. So, so all of these things just kind of came together to allow me to upgrade my Model 3. It was a 2018 Model 3 that I bought as a demo unit, so it had a big discount on it and stuff. And it allowed me to move on to this Model Y, which I was really unsure of, because I was like, well, if Cybertruck really comes by the end of 2021, I don't want to spend my money on this and then trade it again right away for a Cybertruck. The Model 3 probably would have been fine, probably wouldn't have been an issue at all. Again, I just didn't really think about it that way at the time. But this is now the best car I've ever bought. The Model Y, 2021 Tesla Model Y, still got ultrasonic sensors. It does not have a radar, so it was in that time period where the cars were not coming with radar. That ended up being fine. I did not have full self-driving for a while, a couple of months or a month or something. Everybody's freaking out about Cybertruck not having autopilot and full self-driving. That's normal when a new Tesla comes out. They usually don't have certain things, and then they come via software updates. For me, I've been kind of watching Tesla forever. I know that that's how it works, so I don't really care. But let's talk about this car. Let's go over my experiences with it over the 2 years and 52-ish thousand miles, 2.5 years. Good, bad, costs. I'll do costs like later in my office, because I don't have them all off the top of my head, but I'll tell you everything I have written down and everything I know about how much it did cost me, because overall this was actually still a pretty expensive car. Some animal keeps going crazy back there and it's distracting me. So today, the prices of the Model Y, Model 3 are really good. Especially the Model Y, because they just came out with the new Model 3. Model Y, people are kind of waiting like, oh, you're going to refresh that, but it's going to be a while still, probably over a year before that happens. You have the full tax incentive, which you can take at time of delivery. Things are just way different than they were back then. Even though the deal I got at the time compared to overall Tesla was like, okay, it's pretty good. buying a Model Y today is like, holy moly. Now, you also don't get ultrasonic sensors, and you're missing some things, but you do get the new processor and stuff like that. So overall, the things that I've really enjoyed about this car: comfort is great. Now, the size inside is really good. I'm 5'9", so I'm not the tallest guy, but there's plenty of room inside. Now, when we pack the whole family in, we have another 2023 Model Y that my wife mostly drives, and we have the car seats and stuff for the 2 kids in there. When we all are packed in there, it can feel a little more cramped, especially because we had a Model X for a little while, and the Model X is just massive in terms of interior. And like the width is really good. You have tons of room width-wise and height-wise, and then there's tons of space to put all your stuff in, and it's crazy. Compared to the Model Y, you get a little cramped. Reliability has been really good. I've had one major problem that I did have to get repaired, which was under warranty, and that was my heater failed. Unfortunately, that happened during the winter. It wasn't super cold. I think it was like 40 degrees. So when it first happened, I was like, oh, okay, it's not even that cold. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm on my way to the service center. But by the time I got there, I was freezing cold. I mean, it's just crazy. Even at 40 degrees, which for Michigan is not that cold. I mean, these days it's kind of cold. We're here in February, it's like 50. It's still like you're freezing in there. Like you could not operate your vehicle much below 40 without a heater. And so luckily, even though that's a bad thing that happened, I was already on my way to the service center for something else. I forget what it was. It wasn't, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It wasn't anything that affected the driving of the car. I just was going for, wish I could, for my GPS was kind of messing up. But anyway, I was already on my way to the service center when the heater died. So they took it, they gave me a loaner, they fixed my heater, all under warranty. So it was taken care of very quickly and efficiently, but it is something that happened, which if, we were in the middle of a road trip or I wasn't already on my way to the service center or something, could have been a huge inconvenience. It is something that's known for the older Model Ys. So again, mine's a 2021. It was maybe a year and a half into production. But the new heater I got, which was, 10 or 15,000 miles ago, has been working fine, which you would expect. And it's a new revision, and the newer heaters, from my understanding, shouldn't have the same issues that older heater had. So then the other problem I did have fixed under warranty, which didn't affect me using the car, but my data connection would often not work, but in a really weird way where the car thought it was working, but it actually wasn't working. So like you'd try to put in destinations and they'd take forever to load, and sometimes they would load, sometimes they wouldn't, and service at first was like, oh no, it's fine, you just have a bad cell connection. And I had to go through a bunch of, of course, the Tesla service is kind of the thing everybody dislikes most about the company. I had to go through so much work on my end proving to them, look, I have an AT&T phone. The car uses AT&T. My phone is getting 100 megabits per second down and the car says there's no connection. It's not that there's no internet here. It's the car is having some kind of issue. So they did finally, I convinced them to replace, I think it was called the connectivity board, and that has seemed to fix the issue. Now, a couple of times here and there, I have had the internet disconnect, but not like before. And maybe those were times I had bad signal or whatever, but that's totally fixed as well. Other than those two issues, there's one more thing that never got repaired that was annoying, and this is my very first Model Y video. If you watch it, it's in that video. The rear motor makes a really, it's not that loud, but it's a super high-pitched, annoying whine noise between like 30-ish to 60-ish miles per hour when you're going at a constant speed. So if you're decelerating or accelerating, it's not happening. If you're going slower or if you're going like on the highway, you're not going to hear it. But that noise sucks. And I took it to service and they did check some seal or something in the back. And, I have the invoice or the report or whatever. And they said it's all good. It's within spec. Like, I think they literally said the noise is within spec. And I'm like, that sucks. I think either, number one, I either adapted to it. I either got used to it. I can definitely still hear it. It still happens even at, 52,000 miles. Or it maybe has slightly reduced over time. I don't think so. I think the noise is the same and I just kind of got used to it. And if you turn up the radio or, other things are going on, you're not going to notice it as much. But if the radio's off, it's, not that loud, there's not that much wind, you're going to hear it and it's really annoying. It's like kind of ear piercing. It kind of sucks. The dogs wanted to come out. Ari, Twix. All right, so as far as efficiency's been pretty good. Now, I am on aftermarket tires. Oh, let's talk about that first. My OEM tires that came with the car, they probably lasted like maybe 15,000 miles. I don't know the exact mileage because I switched to winter tires. And so even despite the fact that for half the year, I have winter tires, which is what's on here right now. I'm about to go get them changed. So despite the fact that I have winter tires half the year, I already have bought new all-season tires, and I just bought the cheapest ones I could because it was like I'm not paying for all this. And yeah, the OEM tires, I think they lasted 15,000 miles, which is really bad. Now, I drive pretty normally. I normally actually use FSD beta. So maybe FSD beta is the problem. Maybe it stops and starts too aggressively or something. I don't do a whole lot of hard acceleration. Every once in a while, of course, you're like, oh, this will be fun, and you accelerate. But for the most part, I don't do that. I don't, go crazy. I don't go on a track or anything like that. So the OEM tires, it's really variable. Some people say these last a long time. I've seen people say like 40,000 miles or more. For me, 15,000, which is just abysmal. But I mean, that's what I got on them. Now I do have winter tires. So going into efficiency, I switch between winter tires, obviously in the winter, and then all-season tires I use in the summer. Now it's, like I said, it's February, and yesterday it was 61 degrees, which is not like, it's not gonna like destroy your winter tires, but they're gonna wear much more quickly. So since I'm getting ready for Cybertruck, which should be in the next couple weeks, I'm going to take this today and switch back to my all-season tires. But all of that to say, my efficiency I think is like almost exactly 300 watt hours per mile over the lifetime of the car, which in my opinion is not that bad considering winter tires. I live in Michigan, we get a lot of snow, precipitation, we get a lot of wind and stuff like that, and so all of those things are going to be a detriment to your range. So overall, I'll put the percentage on the screen to be accurate, but I think I'm around probably 25 to 30% below the EPA rated usage of energy per mile, which again, over the course of the lifetime of the car, it's always covered in dirt pretty much. So I'm sure that, affects it in some capacity. Winter for, I don't know, maybe 2 months a year now. It's hard to say. Things are so different now. I'm probably never going to buy winter tires again because like, this is February. What the heck is going on? We're supposed to be getting blasted with ice and snow and whatever. And so efficiency, I think, has been fine. All the other pieces of the car, like the exterior, have all been good. I did some modifications, but I did a lot on my Model 3. And when I got to the Model Y, I kind of was like over that. And I was like, I don't want to mess with my car. It's an expensive thing. It's a tool I use daily, and I don't want to do all these things. You can check my channel. I have a playlist of all like the mods and stuff I've done. I did have the yoke steering wheel, which I switched back to the normal wheel for trade-in, and I still prefer the aftermarket hand show yoke. I loved that thing. It was a little thick, like thicker than the steering wheel, which like was not a big deal to me, but I know my wife hated that. But the feel of the aftermarket yoke, I liked much better than the stock wheel. It is what it is. I think the Squircle on the Cybertruck is going to be awesome. And here's Stephanie pulling up right now, so I'm probably going to finish this another time. So we're inside the car now. Let's just look. I'm at 53,000 miles. I won't be driving much more. Hopefully I'll get my Cybertruck within a week. Come on, Tesla. We've used 15,800 kilowatt hours of energy. That's just a crazy number, but that's pretty interesting. And then the average is exactly, as I said, 300 watt hours per mile. Actually, a couple days ago, it was 299, so it just bumped up, and I just switched back to my non-winter tires in February. All right, so let's continue. Hopefully this video style is okay with y'all. I'm going a little more casual on this one, kind of back, how we started reminiscing in the beginning of the video. Back to the old days. This is, kind of more what I used to do, a little more just vloggy, hanging out, talking. And that's kind of what I'm doing with this one. But lots of crazy stuff coming up with Cybertruck. It's going to be good. So, state of the battery, of course, is a big question. I'm at 89%. That's 277 miles. Let me calculate that for you. So 277 divided by 0.89. That gives me 311 miles on a full charge. That's actually been dropping. I'll put my some TesLab screenshots up. That's been dropping more and more in the past few months. I was, what is new, I think 326 miles or something, I don't remember exactly. I was sitting around 320 miles for the longest time. It just was not dropping. And the past, I want to say 3 or 4 months, that number's been dropping more and more. So I don't know if it's going to continue. I don't know if it's finally getting its, initial degradation that batteries get, and it's just going to drop to a certain point and stop. But the past few months, it's been dropping continually. So that's interesting to see. It's still under warranty until 120,000 miles, so it doesn't matter that much, but it's an interesting thing to see anyways. Interior wear and tear, squeaks and noises. There's, besides the motor whine, which I think I already talked about, and this thing, my sunshade, when it's down, will rattle on the dirt roads. Now, most of this is just on the dirt roads. On the dirt roads, this will rattle, and then I think it squeaks. Let me see, where is it? Sometimes when I move this around, it makes a really nasty squeak sound. But not from bumping, just from me. Of course, it's not doing it now. I'm trying to do it on video. So nothing there. So that'll rattle, and then this seatbelt buckle. This chunk of plastic, and I've seen this on a bunch of different Teslas, will rattle up against the side of the car, again, mostly on the dirt roads, a little bit sometimes off the dirt roads, but rarely. So I'll take this and I'll tuck it behind the seat here in like the pocket back there so it can't hit. Other than that, man, no rattles. Outside of the junk I keep in here, I have a lot of stuff in here. The car's actually pretty solid. The road noise is good still to this day. Wind noise is pretty good. It's not the best, but it's far better than my 2018 Model 3 I used to have, and it is significantly worse than the Model X we had. I assume it's significantly worse than the Cybertruck, although I don't know for sure. And road noise and wind noise, it's not bad. It's similar to the 2023 Y. So the newer Ys, at least in my experience, don't have that much better. Suspension on the new Y is way better, but road and wind noise are pretty similar in my experience between this one and the 2023. Questions about heat pump in the cold Michigan winters. So we've gotten down to, below 0, -4, -10, I think we got to. Now, I talked about earlier, my heat pump did fail at some point. I need a little air here. It's getting hot in the sun. But the good news about that is, that's not good news, but besides that, the news that is good is when the heat pump was working, again, it was only out of commission for me personally while I was driving for maybe, 30 minutes or something. The heat pump is kept up in all weather, which I find very surprising. Now, heat pumps have a huge efficiency advantage, of course. They lose that when you get super cold. Now, that doesn't mean they don't work. It just means that they're not super duper efficient when you get really far below freezing. I think it starts below 20 degrees-ish Fahrenheit. Their efficiency starts to drop really quickly. So when you get to those really cold temperatures like 0 degrees or -10 or whatever, your efficiency in this car, like most EVs, is gonna tank with those extreme conditions. What do you want? But the good news is the heat works. It works really well. The most I ever set this to is 74F. And I pretty much always keep it at that in the winter. If it's 20 degrees out or 40 degrees out, or if it's -10 out, I'll keep it at 74F. Sometimes I'll turn it up a little bit, but no, the heat pump, besides it failing the one time, has worked magnificently. And that was one of my worries, was that, once we got super cold, it would struggle or something, but no, works really well. Would I buy the Model Y again? That's such a good question. Definitely. Now, I want the Cybertruck, so I'm gonna get that. But if Cybertruck didn't exist, I would have no reason to trade this car other than maybe getting the latest hardware or something, which we do have a 2023 Model Y. So it kind of answers the question for you, is we did buy a second Model Y. There's nothing else really that we desire all that much. It is just, when you consider the price, the features, the supercharger network, the software update, everything together, it's just an amazing car. And even without all those extra kind of Tesla fluffy things, the size of the car, the feel of the car, the utility of the car is just really good. And then on top of that, you get all the cool Tesla stuff. So it's an amazing car. I personally am really interested in the Rivian R1S or the R2, whatever they unveil here soon. I'm into those, but my wife has said she doesn't really care for the R1S. She likes that the size is bigger, but now she uses FSD, so she likes that in her Model Y. And there's some other things. The price, the R1S is way, way, way more expensive than this, so that's not worth it for her. And some other things. So yeah, we just absolutely love the Y. That's why we own it and why we bought a second one and, make videos about it. As far as suspension and how everything is holding up, it feels the same to me. Like I said, it's more rough than the newer Model Y, but the newer Model Y has a new suspension. So, that makes sense. No problems there at all. And then somebody asked about dirt under the car. So one of my first videos to do really well was me removing a bunch of dirt from my Model 3. I did that in this car, and pretty much nothing was in there. So as far as I know, Tesla actually fixed that, where the dirt would get caught and trapped up in there. So yeah, I haven't checked since then, but yeah, back then there was basically nothing, so I've had no reason to look again. No problems there. So they asked about rust too. Not that I've seen. I've looked around the car. I haven't taken it apart and looked inside it or anything, but from everything I can see, it all looks really good. Good question about car seats. I don't think a lot of people in the EV space talk about this. So we have 2 kids, and they're both in car seats. Giant baby's going to be out of her car seat soon. She can use a booster seat, which she'll use in my car, so we don't have to unbuckle it and reattach it everywhere. But plenty of room for 2 car seats. I've seen people fit 3. I only have 2 kids, so it's not something I've done, but I've seen it done. So you can have 3 car seats in the back. And there's some lower profile car seats that don't take up as much room. Now, for a car seat to be sold, it has to meet certain safety criteria. So buying a cheaper or a smaller car seat doesn't mean that it's unsafe, because it still had to pass all the same testing that any car seat has to pass in order to be sold. But I know some people just feel weird about that, so I don't know, I'm bringing it up. You can fit 3 in here. 2 is plenty. or I should say 2, you have plenty of room. It's just the other baby stuff. So like with the Model X, there's tons of like extra space all over the place, like on the floors and stuff, and under the seats and all these things. So like with the diaper bag we have, and maybe some other stuff you bring for the kids, you can put the kids in, and then you're like, oh, just throw all this junk here. With the Model Y, with all 4 of us in here, don't get me wrong, you could fit in a small sedan and you can make it work, okay? But just talking about this car, when we're all in here, you can feel a bit cramped. So it's a first world problem. It's a nice car. There's plenty of room. With that said, I don't want people to think I'm like going crazy here, but with that said, you'll feel that the car is full. And like with the diaper bag, sometimes I'll just sit in the passenger seat and just like have it on my lap or put it by my feet, and my feet are all scrunched up. Because if you put it in the back, then the kids' feet are all over it and stuff. You can put it in the way back, of course. There's plenty of room back there. But then if you need anything while you're driving, then you can't get it. And it's nice to be able to reach in that bag. I mean, that's the point of, like, if you don't have kids, the point of a diaper bag is you have everything you need right there, ready to go. So it doesn't have as much room, obviously, as the Model X, but I was actually surprised, because the Y and X don't look that different. I was surprised how much less room you kind of feel inside the vehicle while you're using it compared to the Model X. So it's more than doable. You could do the same thing we do in a sedan, but I do notice it can feel a little cramped sometimes. Somebody asked how many times it's caught on fire. I've had 5 different battery fires in my Model Y. Just kidding, 0. There's no fires. There is also the extended warranty I should talk about. I didn't do it, again, pretty much because I knew I was going to trade for Cybertruck, and it's a bit of a gamble. I forget the price. I'll put it on the screen if I can find it easily. I think it's around $1,300. And then that extends your like total vehicle warranty. If you're going to keep so this is just my opinion, if you're going to keep the car like indefinitely, until it dies, or you wait 5 years or 10 years, I think it's actually not a bad idea. It's basically just a form of insurance that if something goes wrong, you hope that whatever goes wrong costs more than the extended warranty you bought, so it was worth it. If nothing goes wrong, you wasted your money, but you had peace of mind. So of course it's an individual decision, but I think you should do it if you're going to keep the car for a long time. Why not? Then like if anything goes wrong, you're like, oh, okay, just fix it for me. I don't care. How many children has FSD run over? 0. That's good. So after living with the Model Y, would I have made a different purchase decision back then if I knew what I knew today? I think maybe. And it's nothing wrong with the Model Y. It's more that I underestimated the reliability of these vehicles and kind of how low maintenance they really are. And I think the only difference, if I knew everything I knew today, I may stick with my old Model 3 and not purchase this vehicle. Only because it's a lot of money to be buying cars and trading cars and doing all this stuff. Now, as I said, I got a decent deal with the price of Teslas and the trade-in prices going up at the time and everything. So it wasn't like I got totally ripped off, but I definitely would have spent way less money overall, obviously, if I had not bought a totally new car. If I had known how good Teslas really are and how kind of reliable they are and how easy they are to repair, I probably would have just stuck with my old Model 3 this whole time. It would only be at probably like 100,000 miles, maybe 110,000 miles. I'd still have the original battery warranty on it. And then I could trade that for Cybertruck, and I could have been saving even more money this whole time versus having bought a whole new car. So nothing bad about the Model Y to say that. It's more a good thing, is I probably would have just stuck with my old Model 3 and never traded. But I was just a bit worried, and who knows, maybe if I stuck with my old Model 3, it would have had a huge problem at 80,000 miles and blah, blah, blah. You never know those things. But that's one potential reason I would have not purchased this vehicle. All right, I was trying to find my motor vehicle purchase agreement for my Model Y. It's on your Tesla account, but the file's corrupt, so that's kind of weird. I went back and found it in my email. So this isn't with taxes and everything, but it's going to be close enough. So let's talk about some costs here. It's going to be very rough estimate of costs. Let me turn this off really quick. There you go. It's going to be really rough estimate of costs, but it'll be close enough. So, oh boy, I paid $65,790 for this Model Y back in June of 2021. And that is with standard wheels. I got the white interior, and I paid $10,000 for FSD. Now, they didn't have FSD subscription back then, but I would have done that. I would have done FSD subscription because I knew this was kind of a waiting for the Cybertruck. But they didn't. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't even talked about when I bought this car. And then it came out, several months later. Whatever, it is what it is. So $65,790. And you know what? When you say that, and you say I'm getting Cybertruck for $100,000, you know what? I mean, that's a lot of money, but it makes Cybertruck seem like a better deal. So there's that. And then let me look at my charging again really quick here. I'm going to estimate, again, a total estimate, my charging at about 5 cents per kilowatt hour. It's hard to know exactly because I get a lot of free charging. Like today, I charged up completely free from solar, 100% free. All my supercharging, which a lot of this charging is supercharging, or at least some of it, is totally free. And then at night, I pay 13 or 14 cents per kilowatt hour, so then it's significantly more. I don't know exactly where it is. I'm going to guess around 5. I actually think it might be slightly less than that, but I think it's a pretty good estimate. So I used 15,884 kilowatt hours, and that'll be, wow, I didn't even pay $1,000 to charge my car. So I drove over 50,000 miles and paid less than $1,000. That's pretty crazy. Let's do the cost per mile really quick. So I paid $794, and then if I do 53,000 miles, I paid about 1.5 cents per mile in energy. I mean, that is ridiculous. Gas cars, some of the big ones can be like 10 times that. So that's a really good cost. Now, that's not the total because I got to, do the price of the car and the price of the tires. I think I paid around 800 for winter tires, and then I think I paid 600 for my all-season tires that I bought. So that's like $1,400 in tires. So that's 67,984 for the car. And then I'm selling it to Tesla. This is awful, but I'm going to sell it to Tesla for 26,000. It's a little bit more than that, but let's just say 26,000. So the overall cost of this Tesla Model Y that I'm sitting in is right around $42,000, which it's funny because that's kind of the price of a new one, but then of course you'd trade it in. So and you get the tax credit and all these different things. So the overall cost is coming out to around 42,000. It's probably slightly more than that, but we'll say about 42,000 total cost of this vehicle over the 2 years that I owned it. All the driving I did, it's expensive. I mean, you obviously can get much cheaper cars and spend much less, even if you account, for the cost of gas. But then when you factor in, doing YouTube and making money off the videos, which I don't have a good way to do that because my videos are about FSD, but they're also about other things, and I make, money on these different videos. So if I was to factor that in, the car may actually end up being closer to $0, but it's hard for me to know that for sure. So overall, 42,000 for the 2 years, and comparing that to the price of a new one, which is around the same price, especially when you consider tax credit and everything, it's actually pretty interesting how that works out. But overall, excited for Cybertruck. If you have questions, leave those down below. I'll try to answer those for you. I hope you enjoyed this one, and you'll see me and hopefully a Cybertruck in the next video.